I'm Ben Garcia. I'm the new clarinet teacher at Burleson High School. I'll obviously be talking to you about the All-State Etudes. Unfortunately, I don't own a bass clarinet though, so this explanation is going to be on clarinet. But stick around to the end of the video where my good friend Celeste Markey will play these Etudes in their entirety on bass clarinet, because I want to make sure y'all hear that. I know what that's like. So if you're a younger student or just new to bass clarinet, then the first thing I recommend is starting these Etudes slow. Everybody wants to play this fast tomorrow. If you do that though, you're gonna play it fast never, because it's just gonna sound bad and you're gonna struggle and just have a bad time. So what I recommend to new students and even older students, who just really want to learn this with as much detail and finesse as possible, start slow. Play this slow. Play this really slow if you have to. Okay, and that's fine. That's fine. After every 3, 4, 5 successful attempts of it, bump the metronome up just a little bit faster, maybe just 1 or 2 clicks faster, and then do it again. Don't do any more than 3 or 4 measures at a time. Don't do any more than 1 or 2 measures at a time if 3 or 4 is too much, and that's fine. It's going to take you a long time to get it learned, but that's okay. It's better you have it learned in a few months than not have it learned at all, which is what most people will do. So when you finally get it faster, then you're going to be playing just as good as any of the older students. If you are an older student, then we have a lot to talk about. In the first measure, we have this accent on A, which is kind of strange, I think, because it implies that they want this loud, because we're taught that accents are these loud things. Like that, and it's just this jabby thing. We don't want that. If we do that, it's just going to sound kind of aggressive. We don't want to be aggressive. We want it to just, be very light and smooth. So treat that accent, anytime you have accents in this piece, treat it more like it has weight and it's just heavier than the other notes. Just kind of like that, just giving it kind of a push, and that's fine. As you're doing this, make sure you're using the correct articulation, and of course make sure the articulation is clear, but it's really easy to mess this articulation up since the third grouping is a little different than the first 2 groupings. The first 2 groupings are, of course, slur 2, tongue 2, dia, da, da, dia, da, di, da. The third grouping is a little different though, and I've heard students in auditions play this wrong. Dia, da, di, da, they play that instead of da, dia, da, da. So just make sure that that's absolutely correct. The same is true in measures 6, 7, 8, and 9. Make sure that those articulations are the right articulations. Aside from that, though, you really can't go wrong. This isn't too bad. In measures 3, 4, and 5, and really throughout this entire piece, be careful you're not clipping or clip accenting the second slurred note. So what I mean by that, if we look at measure 3, I'll start at the A before measure 3. A lot of people will play it like that. Di-ya-ta-da, di-ya-ta-da, di-ya-ta, di-ya-ta. And they just put these huge accents and they clip the second note and it just sounds bad. Very much nicer. It just sounds nicer and just really smooth and very easy. So make sure you're doing that throughout the entirety of the piece, that we're not doing these weird clippy accent things. Measure 9, things get interesting. We have this forte with an accent, and then we go to pianissimo. That's tough. Dynamics this year in particular are going to be really difficult to convey, because it's going to be all recorded this year. When I recorded this the first time, I went back and listened, and there wasn't as much dynamic contrast as I thought, and I have a feeling you're going to run into that problem too in the audition room, because technology. So really, really strive to get that piano, that C, as soft as possible, that you can do that still makes a decent sound on your instrument. And get these bottom notes just loud. Not aggressive, just loud. And then to start learning this, but don't try to play the whole thing at tempo at first. And don't even try to play all the notes. Just try to play the loud C, soft note, the loud D, soft note, just slow like this. And so forth. Do that until you get it kind of fast. And then once it gets something that you can start working with, then you can incorporate the other notes. And just trying to get these as soft as possible. Record yourself doing it. That's really important that you record yourself doing it. I highly recommend getting an external microphone on Amazon. I picked one up for 20 bucks on Amazon and it's working out pretty good. I'm way happier with the results from that than I was on my phone. So I highly recommend you doing that. I might even put a link in the doobly-doo so that way you get one that works for your phone. Moving on, measure 16, we have a section that's very legato. They even put a bunch of legato marks, which I think might be overkill in measure 16, but we want to treat this section like a slow etude, which will make more sense after the second video. But we want to just be just very smooth with this, lots of dynamic contrast in this. So it starts off. So we want to just start very soft and practice doing that F just by itself. Anytime you do dynamics and you're trying to really refine them, just do them by themselves. Okay, I like that F. I'm going to start that F every single time that volume. And it has to be the same for you every single time. Okay, well, how loud do I want to get? All right, let's try to get that loud every single time. All right, cool, mission accomplished. The next soft note is the E flat, so how soft do I want to get there? Okay, sure, let's try putting that together. And so forth. So just go at it like that and have these like peaks and valleys of where you want dynamic to be, but it must be the same every time. If it's not the same every time and it's just however you feel that day, it's never going to be consistent and you're going to get notes sometimes that are too flat, that are just ugly sounding, or they don't respond. And if it's soft and it's not quite the volume we're practicing at, maybe the note doesn't respond at all and you try to blow out the audition and nothing happens. So but those kinds of things happen a lot. Moving on to measure 32, if you're a younger student, these notes may seem really intimidating, and rightfully so, they're really high. If you're an older student, you may be using the real fingerings, the half-hole fingerings, but we don't have to do that with this particular measure. What we can do is use the harmonic fingerings, and I don't know if you have a fingering chart that has that. If you're using the blue book, the Foundations for Superior Performance, that fingering chart has harmonic fingering. So if you're using that, if you have that book, definitely use the harmonic fingering. But in either case, either way, I'll show you what that is. So starting from the C, we're going to play the C sharp right here, the two bottom psyches. So try that if you want. Then for D, we're going to open D, and it's fingered the exact same way as open G, just nothing. Okay? We get a D, and then we push the A key by itself. We get E natural. And that's how we play harmonic fingerings. And it's going to feel very normal to you if you've been, playing clarinet. It's going to feel a lot like just the open throat tones, open throat tone fingerings. That's good because that's really familiar. If you do that, I think it's going to make that measure a lot easier, especially at the tempo that it has to go. And treat it as an extension of the second register, and you shouldn't have too many problems. Having said that though, at the end, you probably want to go ahead and use the half-hole fingering because it is going to give you a fuller sound for the F. which is the same fingering you would find in any fingering chart, and that's fine. That's fine. If you like the half whole fingerings at measure 32 better than harmonic fingerings, maybe you've already learned them that way. That's fine. Go with that. Go with that. If you do want something a little easier to get it out a little faster, then that's fine too. You use these harmonic fingerings. The last thing I would talk about is measure 35. I think that's probably the hardest measure for most students, especially when I judge this at all region contest. If I were you, I would go ahead and just start practicing that now. It's really weird. It goes through a bunch of chord changes, which is hard at first. Again, just learn it start really slow. Don't underestimate that measure. It's a beautiful measure, I think, but it's really easy to just dismiss it because it's at the end of the piece. It's in the middle of a bunch of easy measures. It's just a bunch of scales at the end, and then the measures before there are two measures you've already done before. So it's really easy to just neglect this measure, but don't treat this measure like the hardest measure in the piece, because it just might be the hardest measure in the entire piece. Cool. Okay. So I'll let Celeste take it away here and enjoy.